special event alert.
I'm late because my kid puked on all the other kids at daycare, which is excuse number 190 for being late for changeover, your weekly space news and variety show. I'm your host, Marty Smith, and I'm joined by the purveyor of U.S. Army WTF moments, the infamous Ken Ramos, or better known as Ice.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Good to have you on. Thanks for the short notice show.
You know, actually, it's been, right like I was telling you before, hey, what you doing? I don't know what you're doing. All right, cool. Word. All right, cool. See you there. What time?
Yeah, that's, wish you could get that support out in the field.
Oh, tell me about it.
We're here to bring you the latest headlines and updates pertinent to all Guardians and to the other Earthbound branches as well. So take your seats, get informed, and have a laugh as we present Late for Changeover. Now, Jake tells me that applause is too long. It probably is too.
It's fine. I didn't expect the applause. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, wow, all right, pretty cool.
He makes fun of me. I got 3 buttons. One of them screwed up. That one is applause, and the other one's for the end. So that's all. If I could ever get to a point where I have a producer. Ken, thanks for coming on, man. It's been a while. I think it's been well over a year since
it has been.
Showed up. Yep. In fact, I don't even know. I think we were still doing audio last time we had you on the show.
Yeah, you had audio the last time we did the show, and then we did
video. Or did we do a video?
We did do a video when we did the when I went out to visit you at the hunt at the
that was
fun.
The skeet shoot.
Yeah, we did a real quick impromptu.
Which I'm telling you, U.S. Army WTF moments skeet shoot.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, the outdoor stuff is calling. I get all that stuff I get from people wanting to take us on hunts and all that. And to take us to duck hunts, to take us to go deer hunting, to take us out shooting.
Well, we could set a range up. We could put late for changeover targets. We could put from the ashes targets. We could put some WTF
exactly.
targets.
Well, depending who shows up to the range, they might be shooting at WTF targets a lot, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, good to see you. The show's going great. The website's going good. Go out and watch him live out on either Facebook or YouTube.
And we're on X now. Yeah, we're on X.
Are you streaming live to X now?
Yep.
Oh, man.
So,
you were trying to do Discord, I think, last time we talked.
We're trying to work some of the stuff to where as you go into Discord, you can see the stream and get it on there.
Oh, I see.
But X has been pretty friendly. It's more of the Wild West when it comes to any of our streams anyways. It's YouTube, Facebook, we post something, it'll get a strike or people will complain about it.
Right.
But X, that's the Wild West. That's you're walking into. I mean, if you want to describe what X is like, it's like just think of the old movie theaters where the floor is all sticky. That's X.
You know what annoys me about X is if you watch the news or anything, and they still, what is that, a year later, however long it is, they still go X, formerly known as Twitter. Everybody's got it.
Yeah,
right? You can stop explaining that anymore. You don't need to do that.
No, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, we said that when it was first rolling out. When we were on air, we'd say, and make sure we're streaming on blah, 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 to Facebook, blah, 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 blah. I went through my spiel, and then we're also streaming on X, formerly known as Twitter. And that was like the end of it was like a phase-in portion. Now we just say X, and put on the news,
Everybody's got it. There's nobody who's like, what's X? Is it anything like Twitter? Nobody's saying that.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody, What is it like Twitter? Because I know like, I heard Jack Dorsey, the creator of Twitter, wants to create bitch GPT or something like that. Well, can we say that? Can we say that on your show?
Nobody's stopped us yet. So.
It's like BIT GPT or GPT, but the way the acronyms together looks like it says bitch PT or something like bitch GPT or something.
Bitch PT. Oh, that's nice.
So
you got an elevator pitch? Do you want to You want to pitch that? I mean, I've got 105 subscribers on YouTube, so they might want to know.
No, what pitch you talking about? You talking about where you could join
For
your WTF?
where would you direct people if they want to
Oh
know
yeah,
more?
if
Because
you want to
people
know,
have heard of U.S. Army what the fuck moments. They've heard of that.
yeah.
I don't know if a lot of them know that you have the Facebook page, you have the YouTube page,
Correct.
all the other places you're streaming. Plus, it's not just you; all the other shows you have throughout the week.
Yeah, we have shows every day of the week, with the exception of like a bye week for the Friday show, because that's like tabletop games where Michael Carrasquillo, CQ, the pop culture warrior, will gather other individuals from the team, and we'll all play. They'll play whatever board game it is, or dice or something. I don't know. I can't see dice because it'll be like gambling live or something.
Speaking of that, we have a story on.
Yeah. What's up with the gambling stuff, man?
Oh, more. So, it's really a full slate that you have over there, and it's really, may I say, a media empire that you're building.
Oh, yeah. So we've been told that. We've been told it's forming and growing to its own giant Death Star, and we just got to make sure we keep the rebels off of the.
What I really admire about what you're doing, and maybe that wasn't unintentional, but you just kind of morphed into that, is that it's kind of a place for current service members, particularly the Army, to go, hey, do you know about this? And you're able to bring a light to it.
Yep.
And in a lot of places, that's really made a difference to some commands.
I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of commands have reached out to us and said, hey, I've seen this. I've seen that. We're working on it.
That's cool. So they got you, so you can get both sides and
right. And some of it, like you just said, it's sometimes it's a command that doesn't know exactly what's happening. They don't know that. Oh, I didn't know this was happening in my command.
Sure.
Some of them are like, hey, this is happening in your command, and they ignore us. All right, so be it. And then
big mistake.
Then it goes up. I mean, it's like an awareness thing to where we want everybody to know that we're not. It's like we don't hate the Army. We're not better the Army. We want to highlight stuff. We also want to provide humor. That's why WTF moments. The WTF moment. You're like, oh my gosh, see a vehicle on its side, or you see a vehicle on fire. No injuries, of course. We don't post injuries or any injury causing events, I should say. But and it's I guess you could say it went from being just memes and drama, hey, did you hear Barrack Smoke Pit talk, to then now it's become a major resource where we have major news outlets reaching out to us and say, hey,
really, really cool.
Can you use this story? Can we use this story? Do you know who we talk to for this? And we direct them in that direction. But.
And I'm glad you said that, because there's enough anti-military guys out there who want to post to belittle the military because of their bad experience. And I get that. Sometimes it's justified, but a lot of times it's just bitter. But for you to be kind of a funnel of information back and forth, a de facto mediator, if you will, to make things better, that's really cool.
Well, you bring it up. Sometimes there is bitter that we feel too.
Bitter.
Sometimes you're like, God, why could you just? Why don't you just figure this out? This is not hard, Common sense here. Let's and it's hard to not look like we're bitter, but we're bringing this up. It's like, for instance, if there's a standard that's been put out, or an instruction or regulation that's been put out, and it's not being followed, or someone's being, I don't want to say stupid, but we'll say it. Someone's being stupid about it or being outlandish about it. It's got to be addressed. It's got to be like, look, like we just posted right now, just a few minutes ago, about an hour ago. The Army has its own system to go on leave. If you want to go on leave, you do this automated system called IPS-A. It's not requiring to attach anything. It's not requiring to, you just got to log it in. Well, commands, what they're doing is they're adding almost like you could say TPS reports, cover sheets to everything. And so now now a soldier who wants to go on leave has got to put it in way in advance on paper before it gets submitted electronically. And the system was created to not have that. And this is an example right there, but that's what we highlight. And then we call it the war on cover sheets, because it's just getting ridiculous now that we have, and some commands will even say, I ain't posted nothing. Use the systems that we have. This is what we have.
Yeah.
And a command reached out to us, and said, "Hey, just let you guys know, I know you guys are doing this, but here's what we do at our organization." And it was out at Fort Irwin, and he highlighted it and brought it up to our attention. Like, okay, this is awesome. Here you go, guys. Here's what a command does. Here's what another command does.
Sure.
I don't want to say we're shaming other commands by saying, look at this command is doing better than you.
No,
but we just want to provide that. Hey, look, there is a way that it can be done. And just, I think the kids see it. The soldiers see it. They really see are you guys like trying to like lose grip or something like that? But then in another breath saying, we have the smartest, great independent soldiers and on the planet. But then your command is again, it's something as simple as cover sheets. We also joined with a collaborator, Rob Evans, to do Hots and Cots, which was you
were talking about that the other night.
Yeah. And so he basically, we used to post, I don't know, from 2013 up until recently, just about a couple of years ago. We used to post moldy, sometimes we do moldy barracks, crappy chow. Rob developed this app to kind of like Yelp our facilities, our DOD. Now it's joint. I mean, pretty soon, I think rumor has it that he's got an aircraft carrier that he's about ready to do a review on. Yeah. And he basically, it's like Yelp for all of our facilities, PCS moves, DFACs, billeting, all that. And so, the Secretary of the Army had an office call with him a day or so ago.
Whoa, good for him.
So it's for us. That's kind of like that network that we're going to exploit that network. Hey, somebody reached out to us. Hey, I got this app. Do you want to pop? You want to, amplify it, show everybody that this is what we got going on. Hell yeah. Let's talk about it. You want to come on the podcast? They came on the podcast. He provided metrics. If you just go on Hots and Cots,
that's really cool.
Yeah. So it's for good. It's like I said, we're an agent for good, but there's times where you could totally tell each admin.
Sometimes it's well deserved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, there you go. Sometimes it is well deserved. Yes, you got it out of it.
You know what to remind a little bit, and this is me dating myself. So, what was the little magazine that they would send out once a month out to the motor pools? Remember?
Oh, you're talking. Yeah, it was
They had Sergeant Half Track in it.
Yes, right? PS magazine, right? It was like
it was like something like PM magazine. I think it was PM magazine.
It was called PS magazine.
Was it PS? Cartoons. Okay, it was all about preventive maintenance and all.
Yeah, they call it Preventive Maintenance Monthly is what it was called. And so they just called it the PS magazine. And it was, like you said, those were old. I mean, it's so sad too, because they cut it. They don't print those anymore.
I figured it wasn't around anymore. Yeah. But the back section about like, hey, we heard from this BMO over in Fort Carson that here's how you get around this cotter pin. Hey, we heard from this guy.
Yep.
Here's how you get around this trailer problem. Yep. And it was so smart.
Yeah. It was so troubleshooting on the field too. So like is your Humvee having overheating problems and it's just not overheating and you're in the field? Here's how you can override and stuff and all. I mean, that's some of the stuff that I learned as a Joe, that when I applied it as a senior NCO, the Humvee always having thermostat problems, and it would be like, hey, how did you prevent this thing from overheating? Yeah. And then I'm like, it was a PS magazine. It was the little cartoon.
And that the Army allowed that to go through was wonderful.
Yeah.
Now it's too much iron grip. It's like, we got to control all the information.
Yeah.
We can't have these soldiers doing stuff on their own.
Oh no.
That's how we won the war.
Yeah. Let's give them some cover sheets. There we go. I think we'll handle that.
Cover sheets. Yes. Well, it's great to have you here because I've got a host of stories I really want to get your opinion on.
Oh yeah, let's go for it.
So, our first story out from spacenews.com.
Yes.
Of course. Environmentalists at work. The U.S. Air Force halts plan for rocket landing pads on remote Pacific atoll amid environmental backlash. So the U.S. Air Force has shelved a proposal to build 2 rocket landing pads on Johnson Atoll, a remote island in the central Pacific Ocean, following environmental concerns, of course, over potential harm to local wildlife. The pads were intended to support the Air Force's rocket cargo program. Have you heard of that program?
A little bit about it. I'm not familiar completely with it, though.
What the concept is they want to launch basically big like supply bundles and have them orbit being maybe geostationary or not geo,
Right.
that's too far, but stationary orbit. So they're like, hey, we need this big drop. And they're like, okay, fire the rockets. Boom. And it just comes in on that pad. You
Yep.
run it over. It's really a neat concept, but they've been working on it and they keep getting stopped. I mean, SpaceX is supposed to be, they got a grant for it. This is stopping them from trying to do something. It's like,
and here's
oh my God.
here's my thing too. It's like, hate them, love them, critique them, try to get into his personal life or whatever. SpaceX has done an outstanding job for the space program. I cannot look, everyone. It's one of those things like, everyone considered immediately American heroes, what people look at astronauts. Oh, an astronaut going out to do stuff for NASA and all that.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, I have not seen anything that SpaceX, and I'm pretty sure, again, if you're against this politics, then that's probably what will end up happening is like, go find some study.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But though I've never heard of the SpaceX program being dirty for the environment. I never heard anyone talking about the way those rockets are fueled and what, how they work and all that, aside from them exploding. And that's the thing too. When people say, "Oh, well, they make fun of it exploding," I said, I would rather have him explode autonomous rockets than explode rockets with people in it trying to test it.
Right.
And so, to me, I just don't see what's the impact? Like, what is the exact environmental impact?
And that's true too. And they didn't publish that, so I don't have any answers for you. But I know California was trying to shut Elon down last year because they're like, you're launching too much.
Yes.
It's like, well, what does that mean? And like, you're disturbing, it's just this.
Meanwhile,
in my opinion, it's just this lobby for money.
And meanwhile, Vandenberg Space Force Base launches Minuteman missiles to test. They just launch them. They don't come back. Right. They just launch them, and then they'll use it for a test out there. So,
I was going to say this to the end, but now that you mentioned Vandenberg, because all the space training used to be out there. So I've been out there like 4 times for GPS, SIBRs, a bunch of different systems. Right. And on your off time, you want to go down to the beach. Let's go to the beach. It's Central Coast. It's not the greatest beach, but let's go down to the beach. Beach is closed because of the snowy plover, which is a stupid bird that nests on the beach, but it's protected by California law that if they're there, the beach is closed. Environmentalists. And I'm like, this is the dumbest bird in the world. You're going to nest in the sand, but we want to preserve this stupid bird. Closes all those central beaches around Vandenberg. So
I don't. Okay. A lot of California's ecosystem as well is some of it's invasive, but for some reason they've adopted it as if, it's a natural. It's kind of like I don't want to get too much in the farm business stuff to get off track of the show, but just like some of the farmers out there, that some little smelt that comes out there that's
the
not
smelt. That's right.
You can't do this or can't do that, or we can't use this habitat, or we can't introduce water to this reservoir because of some. And if you do mess with the water, as long as I'm thinking, growing up, I've never heard of this until it became, like you said, the money issue.
Right.
And it's not like we're building. It's not like these pads are going to be built in areas that's going to disturb. I'm gonna say, how do I say this? Maybe there's just some things that evolution just takes care of on its own. You know what I mean? And
not every species is built for forever, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you want to, hey, I'm telling you, if an autonomous rocket from space that comes landing in, and there's a bird that wants to sit on a piece of concrete, it's going to learn. Other birds are going to see it and they're okay, maybe we shouldn't, whatever. They do it. Other birds seem to. I mean, of course, I'm breaking down the biology of a bird, but I just don't get it. You don't hear about NASA when it's time to launch some Hermes rocket or Artemis. I'm sorry, not Hermes. You don't hear about that. You don't hear about this is going to be whatever.
If it's really important, we'll let it go. But if we can get our foot in the door environmental wise, we'll shut it down. And I'm surprised that they kind of rolled over for this, because this is a big program too. This is a really cool program.
Yeah, this is stuff that we always talked about in science fiction to supply troops.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, if there's something like that that can come across the battlefield or to come up to resupply, especially, I mean, come on, we're talking about the Johnson Atoll. We're talking about, what, especially since we're shifting and pivot to the Indo-Pacific, AOR.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would kind of think, hey, shut up, dude. shut up, environmentalists.
Well, I agree. And here's some of the irony about that. As you mentioned, Johnson Atoll, located roughly 825 miles southwest of Hawaii. It's a U.S.-controlled unincorporated territory and former military base, though long associated with Cold War-era weapons testing and chemical storage.
Mm-hmm.
The island is now managed as a national wildlife refuge under the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. In a Federal Register notice published in March, the Department of the Air Force announced plans to prepare an environmental assessment of the site, which would have marked one of the first real test beds for the rocket cargo concept. The program, overseen by the Air Force Research Laboratory, envisions adapting commercial space technologies to enable rapid delivery of material to austere or contested environments. I think it's a great idea. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, I mean, not knowing too much of the details, and we already hit the value of it. You know what I mean? It's, This is again.
I mean, imagine if you could get a resupply in an hour.
Yeah.
It's like,
a resupply in an hour in a conflict in the Indo-PACOM area. I mean, you would be. I mean, at this point, screw them birds. You'd be like, at this point, where are we drawing the line to where, for when it comes to and of course, in this day and age, anything that you talk about the government doing was then, of course, everyone likes to try to link the administration. They never want to consider what other administrations have done. For some of this testing as well.
The Air Force said it has suspended the plans. Will seek alternative locations. Alternative? Where the hell else are you going to go?
Well, where else are you going to build it? Yeah, Guam. Yeah,
I guess.
I mean, that's another thing too. And then you're going to have individuals that, and that's. I don't know if is there because kind of like the discussion you guys had a while back about moving commands, moving Spacecom.
Yeah, to Huntsville.
Huntsville. What's in Huntsville? And then, of course, everybody wants to keep that right there. Is anybody walking around with a briefcase or something like that saying, here's what happens when we show up, and this is what's going to happen to the job market, and here's what's going to happen to your economy, and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Does anybody bring up those because we're in and maybe it's because, I don't know, I think like that when it comes to, hey, we're going to bring a facility here that's going to bring jobs. Doesn't matter, from low to high paying, civilian specifically, and contracting gigs. And it might boost that, like you said, the U.S. Park Service. It might boost that economy there. It might economy. It might create a freaking tourist spot too.
Well, it's going to take them years to get all that stuff done, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be some good money, but not anymore.
No.
According to several news reports, conversation advocates warned that construction and rocket landings could disrupt fragile ecosystems and pose risks to seabird populations and marine life around the atoll. Last time I was out in Santa Barbara, I didn't see any problem with the seabird population. My God.
Everywhere, dude.
Jesus. Those things are flying rats.
Exactly. And not to mention the pelicans will try to take your toddler too.
Yeah.
If you're not careful. They want to eat everything.
For a long time, I thought swans were the biggest assholes of the avian world until you get to a pelican and they have
they don't care if they walk up. Yep, they will walk up to you and grab a hamburger out your. I've been out there in the wharf. They'll grab a hamburger out your hand, or they'll sit there next to you while you're fishing and then swoop down to see what you pull up and snag it from you.
When your wife's nudging you, just appease the pelican. It's like give him your wallet.
Exactly. If you don't move, maybe we won't see what's happening. Don't look in his direction, No, you're in a pelican.
No, we got to save those out in the Johnson Atoll that we formerly did nuke testing and chemical storage at.
Yeah. So, well, if you look at the old matter of fact, if you look at the old nuke tests, you always see like a nuke going off in the distance. But what do you see flying in front of the camera? You always see birds flying by.
Right.
You always see like in front of the lens. You're like, I wish this would have been a good shot if those flock of freaking seagulls had not passed over it, I'm not saying that I advocate nuclear testing, but I'm just saying that, if you look at the old footage,
I hear you.
you'll see birds flying in front of the lens.
Well, it's funny you said that. A few weeks ago we did Atomic Annie. We did that as a day in history when they shot that one and only artillery shell. Do you know the distance?
No, I don't know.
I never knew. Just 6.5 miles.
Whoa.
Are you serious?
Whoa.
Those crews are like, yeah. Like
look at that.
6.5 miles.
6.5 miles. That's
nuts.
like just a quick drive to the gas station.
Yeah. That's
like,
nothing. They're like, good test. Yeah. We should be good, right? And they're like, yeah.
All the senior leaders, they have the standard hands and the hips. Look at that. That's a great test, Bob. All right, Frank, let's go get those sergeants out there and see what happens. And you got those guys walking out to it, what's going on?
Yeah, and then
walk those NCOs out there.
They're like, hey, I'm losing my hair. And the VA is like, I don't know what you're
talking about.
Hey, yeah. You weren't anywhere, would you?
Yeah, this didn't happen. Meanwhile, John Wayne contracted cancer shooting a movie as Mongolian because of the downwind. Rest his soul. Everyone likes to talk about John Wayne and how he was, and how he didn't serve, or he did serve. And there's rumors about that he did serve, but we just don't know in what capacity.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it wasn't. It was a popular thing to do. I mean, most of those guys of that era served in some way, shape, or form.
Yep, exactly. Either in the uniform service or the, the strategic strategic stuff, doing things,
a lot of S's on that.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. A bunch of O's. Got to make sure we get the O's in front of that.
All right, so let's make a viral video here, because I want to hear your reaction to this next story from where the hell did I get it? Oh, Task and Purpose, of course. Task and Purpose. The Army now authorizes combat patches for soldiers in parts of Africa and the Middle East. All right. U.S. Army soldiers who deployed to 14 countries in the U.S. Central Command and Africa Command areas of responsibility between October 23rd and June 25. Oh, I said October 2023 and June 2025 can now wear combat patches. The new policy announced this week expands the Army's window of combat deployment and who is eligible to wear the patches. The new policy lets soldiers, quote, assigned or attached to units supporting operations within the CENTCOM and AFRICOM countries listed wear the shoulder sleeve insignia for military operations in hostile conditions. The memo from Army Chief of Staff General Randy George was widely shared on social media, including the popular Army subreddit. Did you cover this on WTF at all?
We did talk about it because there were people that were saying that it was fake. And we're like,
wow.
And the reason why we didn't publish it until there's a popular page called Zoltan, the S1 guru. And Zoltan is the all-seeing everything of promotions and personnel actions. And in that account, I asked, I was like, hey, dude, check this out. Is this happening? I was like, yeah, we got to wait for the LRAC. Because normally the Army, when it does memos, it'll do a memo, but there's also an LRAC, which is, an action message that comes down through the force that explains what so we were waiting for the LRAC to get published. We were going to publish the memo, and people were saying, this memo's fake. This is not real. Oh, there's no way this could happen. Combat patches for Kuwait and Qatar, blah. And once the LRAC was published, then that's when it obviously it stirred the conversation because there is, how do I say this? There are some people that don't believe that they don't believe that when you're in a hostile situation that you don't deserve a combat patch. And I'm thinking, guys, that this is not the first time. This is not the first time that we've gotten combat patches. We have memorandums of combat patches in 2022. So it's not like it's new, that it's a new thing. The ALARAC was released, I think, in 2 July. And it's again, it just says, like you said, authorization to wear the soldier sleeve insignia, SSI on the right, your right arm. And the thing that got us, the Army, the formation, is that generally when you get a combat patch, you get paid.
Yes.
Combat zone tax exclusion, and hostile fire pay, imminent danger pay. But this time it didn't happen.
Oh, really? What do you mean?
Yeah, they waived it. They waived that. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, they waived it. So per the directive applies to the Army and Reserve National Guard, there's no baseline time and theater requirements. But also General George also approved an exception to policy, waiving the requirement that soldiers be deployed to specific countries also must receive hostile fire pay, imminent danger pay, and combat zone tax inclusion to wear the patch.
So he's going back door to meet those requirements to get the patch. So,
yes. So here, and that's the thing too, is like AFRICOM, they more than likely anybody in AFRICOM knows that there are some areas that have been designated combat zones already.
Sure.
And Somalia, you know, there's some places in Djibouti as well, Ethiopia. I know we have, because there's things that happen in the Horn of Africa. Mostly it's SOF that handles that, does that, and then the rotational forces that go into Djibouti. Those always have been combat patches already because they're already collecting those types of pays. Sure. And I mean, Djibouti's only like, I don't know, 18. You know, where Camp Lemonnier is at is just roughly under 20 Ks near the Somali border, and that place is always, you know,
even if you don't get a shot whizzing past your head, you know you're in some hostile territory.
Yeah, you know that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you know, you could feel the tension there. I know that because I was in Djibouti before, and I was in Ethiopia before, and it's just in a flare up, you can bloop. It's the next thing you know,
sure,
you'll have somebody
Hotel
running,
Rwanda, and you don't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. A running gunfight could pass by the gate in Camp Lemonnier, and everyone's like freaking out, wondering what's going on, and then it's over, and then then everyone goes back to chow.
I get it.
So
before we go on, let me read the countries that it covers. Right,
go for it.
Bahrain, Egypt, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Pakistan, Qatar, Saudi, Syria, UAE, and Yemen. Between October 7th, 2023 and June 24th, 2025.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Like you said, General George waived or approved an exception to policy, waiving the requirements of soldiers deployed to the specific countries must also receive hostile fire, imminent danger pay, and combat zone tax exclusion in order to wear a combat patch on the uniform. They wrap it up by saying the new combat patch policy is the latest in several ways the U.S. military is honoring troops who have taken part in or in support of combat missions during that time frame. Now, the only real experience I have with this, right, because I missed Panama. What's the other one I missed? I missed 3. And then we were getting our vehicles painted when Desert Storm finished. 100-hour war. And I was like, fuck. Right. So we knew the ramifications. There were 2 stateside divisions that didn't deploy.
Yep.
And going forward, you're like, God, how are we going to compete without a combat patch? Right.
Yeah.
However, I talked to several buddies who did deploy, and they're like, we didn't even cross the LD.
Yeah.
And it was over.
Yeah.
Put a combat patch on. I was like, okay, well, at least you're over there. But,
yeah, exactly.
You know, it's a tough one to kind of reason through.
I think the newer generation has kind of, they feel like if you were in, and this has been a big argument too with pundits, political pundits and individuals when they talk about like stolen valor, what's considered a combat veteran, right? You know, so now these kids are considered combat veterans, right? Or they are not. You know what I mean? So that's kind of goes to the question to where, you know, it also causes, and we post the stuff on U.S. Army WTF Moments, and the comments is just ripe with back and forth of you don't deserve it, they don't deserve it, blah blah. And I'm thinking, look, we've seen videos. U.S. Army WTF Moments even posted a video. I'm kind of saying that if there's missiles flying over your head and your equipment is shooting them down, you're in combat.
That's you know
what I mean, that's
I agree. And you know, the whole new drone warfare stuff. Yep. You know, I get that. But you know, there were some that Qatar's a tough one.
Yeah.
You know,
that
was our first incoming missiles to Qatar in I don't know how long.
And also from what also what the chairman also said, it was like the most Patriot missiles launched ever. You know, because they were just like, holy crap, these things are coming. You know, now
we bought them. Let's use them.
Yeah, exactly. Is, you know, that whole turn, you know, better to have it and not need it, you know, it really hit because those missileers, I mean, those kids, did an outstanding job. Like you said, there was only
they
like 44
did their
people there,
job
yeah.
great. You know, it's brilliant technology and it's brilliant training. But you're right. It does it. I can see where it goes in the comments where it's just like it skirts that stolen valor line, even though it's not. It's like, all right, don't be so bitter. I get it. You know, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Again, there's guys that right now are saying that those kids don't deserve it.
Yeah,
and I'm like, dude,
that's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. You know, it brings me back to one of the first guys I ever interviewed, Joe Guanyo. He was a 25th ID guy, went over and did his tour in '66. I was trying to get some reality, you know, how much of the movies, you know, how much was it? Because, you know, when he came back, it wasn't spitting on the air, spitting on us. You know, there was some protests, but it wasn't like the movies. The interesting thing he said, and this is for decades, right? For eons, for as long as we've had a military. He said the most discrimination he ever got was in the VFW because the World War II guys looked down on the Vietnam guys, right? You're only over there for a year. You're not doing anything.
Yeah, because, you know, when you deployed in World War II, you
were there for the duration.
You were there for the duration, or unless you were killed or wounded, you know? Yeah.
And we just have so much friendly fire, right?
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it goes, somebody reminded me of First Blood, right? Remember that movie, First Blood?
Yeah. Yeah.
I never read the book, but I saw.
I've read the book
you have read the book.
Yeah, I've read the book and saw the movie. So
you know the sheriff.
Yes.
He was a Korean War vet, right?
Yes.
And he resented the Vietnam guy.
Yeah. And I think he had I think it was a Distinguished Service Cross or something like that. Or
he was decorated, right?
Yeah, he was decorated.
That's what I had heard. Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, one of the scenes of the movie, because it was set during Christmas,
they mention it.
It's also in the back. It's also in the back of his.
It is.
It's like a little "I love me" section right there with the Marine Corps.
No kidding.
He was a Marine.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I always tell people you got to respect the service, the period of service where they served.
Yeah.
Because if you're using it on the lens that the bitter ones, I guess you would say, would look at it, then okay, then don't. I mean, because I love the Greatest Generation, what they did for World War II, but they're apples and oranges compared to what the Vietnam kids did.
Yeah, it's different. You know, different fight. Yeah,
what the Korean kids did, what the GWAT kids as well. You know, and so when I see someone talking about Bronze Stars in the GWAT as compared to the Bronze Stars in World War II,
sure.
Then you get into the, okay, well, what was the difference between how did they get their Bronze Star? How did they get their CIBs? Or how did they get they didn't have cabs, but how did they get their combat patch? What did they do in World War II? No one ever brings that up to the World War II vets. You know, it's like,
right.
And so, I hate, like you said, there's no, that friendly fire we don't need to have. It's like, you did your service, you were in a combat zone.
Yeah, it's weird.
You were in World War II. You were in World War. Matter of fact, even in the title, you were in World War II. You know, so it's like and then you know they have no. I don't want to say they have no reason to be bitter, but you know they shouldn't. The older generation shouldn't see the younger generation as threats because nobody sucked more than, I guess you would say, nobody sucked worse than me type of mentality is not what we need.
Absolutely.
In the veteran. We don't need that in the veteran community. We just need veterans to kind of like, hey, no, even though our timelines are different, even though our time and space and how we deployed are different, even though the type of leadership we're different, I'm glad you chewed some dirt, proud of your service, blah, blah, blah. That's what we need to be seeing. We don't need to be seeing your Bronze Star sucks because you didn't get her, blah, blah, blah. You know, there's a guy there. I mean, how many people that landed in Normandy didn't get Bronze Stars, got combat patches? You wouldn't talk to somebody who landed in Normandy like that.
Of course not.
Dude, you landed in freaking Normandy. You landed in freaking Normandy. Holy crap, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
Whatever wave you came in, because it was.
You know who seems like they don't do that? The Marines.
No,
Army we kill ourselves. I don't know why.
The Marines are like, whoa. It's like, for me, it's like
you're in, brother. You're in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is truly the brotherhood in the Marine Corps. Because I have Marine friends, and they raw, you know, Marines raw. It doesn't matter. You serve with us, brother. Come on in and look at Full Metal Jacket and the way they all talk. They all called each other brother.
Yeah.
You know, hey, this is my brother. This is my brother Joker, and then that's when Animal Mother those two characters meet. But you see much combat, they all break balls on each other like that. But there you see them as Marine. That dude was a freaking PAO kid, you know what I mean? Joker, combat journalism. And so he was in the shit. They all treated him like, hey, he was a brother. He was a comrade in arms.
Right.
But you're right. The Army guys just really, because everyone's like, yeah, and that's the thing too. They're like, hey, Ken, why don't you talk about your service? You've been in for a long time, almost 30 years. I'm like, yeah, dude. But as soon as I say where I did or where I deployed, Pogue, shut up. You didn't do nothing. Even I'm a special operations veteran. What do you mean by special ops? I'm like, oh my God. Dude.
Yeah, Jesus.
You get into those things too. And then everyone starts, because I get told, Ken, you need to, I don't know, maybe it's imposter syndrome. I don't think I did enough type of thing.
Yeah,
maybe even though someone's like, damn, dude, you did this, good job. And I'm like, I don't feel like I did a good job, but okay, cool. Thanks. And that's just the way I am. I don't, I'm not beating my chest. I'm not going around saying, bro,
No, right.
But you're right. The Marine Corps has
tight on their whole history,
Dude, they're pretty strong. They're pretty tight on 6th Street in freaking in Austin, Texas. What are you talking about? Right. Holy crap. You see their videos of those guys fighting in their blues. It's just like,
I've been to Honolulu when the fleet's in. I know.
Yeah, they
cut a wide berth.
Yeah, exactly. Those jarheads are freaking like, everybody.
Here's what my goal is, right? Before I leave, I should have thought of this years ago. I want to get the Space Force. I want to get the Sibbers guys to start talking shit about the GPS guys who talk shit about the weather guys. That's the war I want to start.
You guys, I was about to say, and the Space Force, because I mean, you are Space Force WTF moments as well, but
That's right.
What's the rivalry? I mean, how do you for instance, Marines all Army, because we always talk about how hard it.
Yeah.
Does the Space Force, does Guardians, and do they have like a rivalry with like who can GPS better than who or whatever?
Unfortunately, I think what the Space Force is that they're all whipped, because they're like, you were on 12-hour shifts, we were on 12-hour shifts. It all sucks.
Yeah. I mean,
you got to build up the pride within the system.
Right. Well, I mean, the Space Force is not that old anyways.
It's not, but it came from U.S. Space Comm, you know. So there was the same people there. It was the same mentality, right?
Yeah.
And you got to have them taking pride in their system, and then in a bar, which these kids, they're not bar drinkers like we were. They're like what's your vape? I got a cherry vape. And you're like, oh God, you really
how do they fight? There was like Marines and Army guys, when you see them fighting in the barracks, you see them fighting in the barracks. Oh, you see them like, oh man, that guy got stuck in the face or got kicked, or I
think their fighting is Madden 2K or something like that. That's how they get it out.
Oh man.
That's why we wouldn't survive. We have no relation to them, and then we'd have no top cover for our language. They're like, sorry, Major, you gotta go. Like, what? I just said gay, and they're like, yeah, you can't say that anymore. You're out.
And that's the thing too. Oh man, I've said that before in our podcast. It's like, now things that we used to say that were common, people just get offended for anyways. So it's like,
well, they get offended, but they don't face you. They'll run around and tell mom.
Yeah,
and then mom tells dad, and then you've got paperwork. So that's what the tough one is. So
see, that's the thing. In the Army, we like to fight. If someone, well, don't get me wrong, we have some passive aggressive individuals in the Army too. But generally, when we find out and you want to throw hands, I'm not saying that I've endorsed or endorsed any of those types of fisticuffs to bring a disruption to good order discipline. But sometimes that brings good order discipline.
It's like the old National Hockey League. That is the greatest league. It's like, fight it out, get it out
of your system,
go play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's the same kind of philosophy. It's like, oh yeah, that's just how a team is built.
Yeah. I'm just curious to know that how would you, because like you said,
I don't know.
The Air Force, or shut up, Guardian, shut up, Airmen. And also they just slap each other around, or
it's like, shut up, Guardian. And they're like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like the way you told me to shut up, but I told you to shut up. And then then the next thing, everyone's all happy.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
No, but you're right. Just some of the stuff that all that whole generational stuff with the combat patches, going back to it, I would never besmirch or shit talk a World War II veteran if he didn't have a Bronze Star or if he didn't have a CIB, but he had a combat patch, but it was in World War II. You know,
right? But at the same time, if you think about it, you wouldn't talk about anybody who spent their time over in Afghanistan or any of the Iraq guys, because even if you weren't fighting, it was still a shit deployment, man.
Yeah. You
know,
and that's another thing too. Well, it goes to the same thing about how everyone was going off on the vice president's service. He was he was deployed. Right. He was in a true no shit combat zone. So he was he was in a combat zone.
Yeah.
But damn,
I wish I could remember the congressman or the senator. I wish I had that when he was like, "Hey, I deployed to CENTCOM headquarters." And then you do the research, you're like, "Oh yeah, you went to Homestead."
Yeah.
Because that was where CENTCOM headquarters was.
Yeah.
But he played that off, because most people don't know. They're like, "Oh, you really went over there?" And they're like, "Oh, I went to CENTCOM headquarters." Why does he keep saying CENTCOM?
Yeah, exactly. It's like
it's in the middle of Florida.
I'm about to say it now. It's in Tampa. CENTCOM's in Tampa, and now it's in.
That's right. Yeah.
Unless you're forward in Qatar or or whatever. Right. But yeah,
which you can get a combat patch now.
Yeah, you can combat. See, that's the thing too. Look, man, if you're under the subject of getting shot at by a rifle or a rocket, then you kind of get freaking
right.
You should get it. Now again, they should be paying those kids too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They should be. They should be.
It's not just a tax free.
Not just you should get tax free. All the hazard, family SAP, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You should get that. It's just
But it's gonna create within the army. There's gonna be that. What'd you do? I was like, I was at the hospital. All right.
You get a combat patch. If you were in the hospital there, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you get a combat.
I know it's gonna be tough.
How do you get a combat patch, but you don't have a CMB? How come you don't have a combat medical badge?
There we go. That's right.
You know what I mean? That's usually what happens in the or cab.
Yeah.
That's something. Are these guys gonna get cabs? Because there's people right now pushing, asking, can we get cabs? Can we get a cab to do this?
Really?
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, why not? Yeah, why not? Right?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, dude. If I'm seeing rockets above my head and there's chunks flying down, I mean,
I don't care where I am.
Yeah. Give those kids a cab. Give those kids a combat patch. They earn because they were under fire. They legit were under fire.
I think the worst thing, if you do award some people that didn't see any action, fine. But if you don't award some people that did see some action, that is 100 times worse.
Yeah.
So maybe you're gonna butter that combat patch out there, but that's better than not recognizing somebody who was like, yeah, my barracks burned down around me. I didn't get shit.
Well, I mean, think about the guys that during, like you said, during Desert Storm.
Yeah. They still stayed over there for 6 months.
Yeah, not only that, but in Saudi, there were Scud missiles landing on them. Are you not going to give them constantly? You're not going to give them a fucking combat patch? I mean, you best believe they got combat patches.
You risked your life. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. God, I don't even know if we're going to get to the other stories because I love talking to you about this. But I had a guy in my unit when I was at Service Battery 1-8 FA over.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Right.
Yep.
I had a guy in my unit. This was 95, who had Gulf War syndrome when they were naming it that.
Got you. The actual ailment, the biological. Yeah.
But they still didn't know. They couldn't figure it out, or they didn't want to figure it out. Whatever it was. Geez, I hope those guys got compensated. Because the military medical system was so vague on it, and it just kept pushing them back to duty.
Yeah. And everyone was like,
figure it out.
And they can wonder why these guys were deteriorating, why these guys were all of a sudden like they're. From what I remember, it was like they were suffering like really bad arthritis, and some of them had cancer from it too.
Unexplained skin stuff,
skin lesions and stuff like that.
Breathing, and it was weird. It was really weird. So, give that guy a patch, definitely.
Yeah, and give him some disability too. And again, I'm not saying we overdo our disability, but we don't do enough when it comes to awarding veterans.
Not when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Not when it comes to that. Real symptoms, not the ones who's going back to get 5% more because I think my hearing's going.
Yeah, which you're not going to get service connected anyways. I know. I tried. No, they're like, well, wait a minute, I'm deaf. You all said I'm deaf. I have my headphones on when I broadcast on air and I'm fucking high. People are saying, why am I yelling all the time? And I'm like, well, I can't hear.
Right. My brother is trying to convince me. My brother was part of 19th group. Mm-hmm. He went over after the horse soldiers, same area. Mm-hmm. Spent his time over there. Retired and never claimed anything, right? Mm-hmm. For years. He'd never claimed anything. Finally, somebody kicked him in the ass and go, you have stuff that's related to your time over there.
Yeah.
He had TBI, exactly. He had all this other stuff. So he finally got some compensation. And he's like, Marty, you got to go back. You got to get your thing redone. And I was like, I don't know. I don't have any lingering stuff that I can trace back that they haven't already identified. Mm-hmm. 2, you got Doge in there, and these guys are willing to, you got sleep apnea? We issued you a CPAP? You're good. No more compensation.
Yeah, exactly. Well, see, that's the thing, too. It's like, to what point, and also you got to remember who's in Doge as well. You're talking about the TBI because there was the Tower 22 incident in Jordan.
That's right.
That had the same kids, air defense stuff like that, and all, and those kids got Purple Hearts. They got fucked up. People think,
they did.
Who cares? It's not really. They were like literally under a barrage. It's almost like when, again, I keep going back to saying about World War II. You see that Battle of the Bulge scene of Bad and Brothers, and you see those guys where they're all, you got First Sergeant Lipton making sure everybody's good to go. You have, all the medic running around, make sure everyone's all right. Check your feet, blah, blah, blah. And then there was a pause, and then all of a sudden the Germans shell the trees, and the trees are exploding over them, and all this boom, boom, boom. Well, that's pretty much what happened in their version at Tower 22 in Jordan.
That's a good analogy. Or not even an analogy. That's a good parallel.
Yeah, because they were, the Houthis were launching, and that's another crew that I'm going to get a bunch of drama for saying this. Sometimes I think eradication of our enemies, complete eradication, is what needs to happen. Not absolutely completely destroy it. I mean, yes, completely destroy, eradicate, not talk about this. We just need to minimize and mitigate their capabilities. No, wipe them out because
I think that's what Israel is trying to do. Yeah. Systematically through the Houthis, through Hamas, through what's the third one? Whatever.
Iran.
Whatever the third terrorist group, and then they went after the country. So, exactly. Okay, we got all these guys out of the way. Let's go.
Now we can go to. There we go. Now we can finish off Iran, which, of course, not to get off the topic, but I think just like the pilots that pulled off. Hey, look, I hate the criticism that's going on in the administration about how we conducted ourselves in that raid. That raid, to me, was pulled off. It was an awesome operation, and it was a degradation of their capabilities. And so to me, that was a success. That wasn't sure. We set out to destroy that. Now Israel was like, well, I'm gonna fuck everybody up. But when we were using our B2s, I think we have achieved our objectives. And of course, when politics gets in the way of not really doing it, well, what'd you want us to do? Did you want us to nuke the mountain and then completely obliterate the,
There are those who wanted us to, and then there are those who didn't even want us to fly over there.
Right.
So,
right.
If I had the ability, I wish, and there's got to be a meme out there by now, right? There's got to be a meme because the weirdly parallel of that Iraq mission to Top Gun Maverick. And if I had been smart, because I thought of it days after, I was like, how do I do that meme? It's like, okay, Top Gun Maverick, here's how the Navy would do it. Here's how the Air Force would do it. Mm-hmm. It's like, and then, there you go. Done.
Here's how Star Wars would do it, because
3 meters wide.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. We got some good shit to be able to blast 3 holes and then
amazing
the rest of the munitions going in the same hole.
Yeah.
In the middle hole. I'm not trying to throw some sort of innuendo, a sexual innuendo, but I'm just saying that, maybe we're good at 3 holes, I guess. I don't know. But I just think it's funny that
So you're saying they're all Iran Eskimo brothers? Is that what you're
saying? I'm just saying, man, that we were able to pull it off, and nobody else has still been able to get our flag back from the moon. So I don't want to hear anybody talk to it.
That's in a Hollywood studio, you know.
Yeah, oh, of course, yeah. Come on, I'm a psyop guy. Yeah, I mean, I forgot I got a piece of the lander right here.
That's old Capricorn 1. They already did that movie. So.
Dude, man. Yeah, I talked to people about that movie, and they're like, they don't believe me. I'm like, go Google it. Capricorn 1. Movie, I said, it is the most classic movie on the planet that's got OJ in it still, that when he was good.
That's true.
You know,
and one of the earliest conspiracy theories, too.
Yes.
On film, anyway.
Well, because at that time, people were shit talking the Viking mission. And because I remember I had the books. I had the books of the Viking mission. This big thing lands on there. It looks almost like Space 1999, but I'm just saying, I'm not dating myself. And you see the scooper of the red soil, and everyone's like, well, how is it? Why is it scooping samples if it's not coming back? I mean, people were like asking those little simple questions, but it was NASA. You can't.
That's true.
If it was Elon did it, they would have been like, they would have shit talked Elon the whole time. But NASA, yeah, exactly. But NASA, there was no way NASA would ever do something like that.
Oh my God, NASA.
Capricorn 1, man, I haven't heard that. Yeah,
there you go. That's
what I'm talking about. This is my pop culture reference too. So for Tell CQ,
very good.
So,
okay, we've got 2 stories left in history. Do you want to hit one or the other? Do you want to talk about the VA?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about gambling? All right, let's talk about the VA.
Let's talk about the VA.
Let's hit them both.
Yeah,
let's hit them both.
We can hit them both at the same time. We got
we got a time.
We got time.
All right, this story from Stripes.com. House approved VA budget bill ends restrictions on doctors from discussing medical marijuana with veterans. So this is what we were talking about. It's like they're right at the line, and they just won't step over it. Okay. Yep. But this is good progress. This is great progress. According to an amendment in the House-approved VA budget bill for fiscal 2026, doctors at the Department of Veterans Affairs for the first time would be allowed to recommend cannabis to patients in states where it is legal.
Yes, sir.
While VA doctors cannot prescribe cannabis, which is banned under federal law, a measure in the Military Construction, Veterans Affairs, and Related Agencies Appropriations Act, that's a big name.
Yeah.
Would let them discuss it as an alternative healthcare treatment in states that have legalized medical marijuana. So I think heretofore they were just like, nope, we can't endorse that. You're not going to do that under our care. Now, if this passes, they'll be like, okay, let's discuss some alternative therapies. So that's really fantastic.
And this was through my own VA provider, and I won't reveal the individual's name, facility, or state. That they're going to coin the term holistic, holistic therapies or medicines. They're going to call it like something that has to do with like holistic, something like holistic alternative stuff.
Yeah,
and I was like, you just can't say that. Yeah, go take some weed or go get some edibles.
Right.
You can't just say that. You just, and then like you were saying, it like prevented it. But then that's when I was told, well, here's what's coming down and here's what's happening. It's a lot of stuff that's going through. And I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure the VA could get some, I don't understand too that you were talking about earlier. I remember you talking about clinical trials. And I'm like, dude, all you got to do is go to a freaking VA. Said, I need 100 vets to take this weed or to take CBD or to take CBN's THC or psychedelics. And let's do this. Let's do a freaking baseline poll. I don't know. I mean, personally, I think it's a conspiracy. You know what's about conspiracy? I think it's big farm. They're trying to move their way into,
Sure.
They don't like the fact that a natural plant is could help veterans in some of their own market.
You're bringing it back to ivermectin, though.
Yeah, but I don't want to say that. I don't want to.
There are stuff that helps.
Yes,
This is one of it. Right?
Yes, and there have been individuals because I never hear about. I always hear, and I don't like bringing up the 22 a day stuff because it pisses me off. Yeah. But you always hear the 22 a day stuff when it comes to alcohol. But I don't think I've ever heard anybody under those types of treatments, holistic types of therapies. I don't ever hear them about going into some sort of PTSD or suicidal episode. From what I've heard from my friends and my circle.
To amplify that, the treatment is not wake and bake. It's not
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
get blotto. It's
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It would,
in doses. It's CBD too, right?
yeah,
It's not necessarily THC. So,
correct. Well, I
um,
think, and that's another thing too, is that there are veterans out there that have completely dropped the medications that the VA, because we get it. Come on, I'm pretty sure you know too. Is that, well, you probably have experienced it. The VA wants to give you everything and anything, pretty much to shut you up.
it's easy. Yeah,
It's easy. I'm like, yep.
yeah,
My back's hurting. Oh, you need to take this. Well, it's actually, my spine. I have no discs. Oh, then you need to take this. And I'm like, no, but it's like I need to get like fixed. Can you? Oh, well, it, like you were saying about the hearing. It's like, okay, well, you're not rated enough to have a bad back, even though everything from the middle of your back all the way down to your ass bone is degenerative. It's gone because you've been jumping so damn much. Then there you go. Then here's another pill. Like, I need to like fix it. And then as soon as you say, well, I'm gonna take a CBD gummy, and holy crap, everyone's freaking out. I mean, Texas just had the lieutenant governor. He tried to pass a bill banning CBD, THC, Delta 8 products in Texas, and Governor Abbott vetoed it. So that that whole reefer madness stuff comes back as well.
it's so ingrained into some of those
It is.
lawmakers.
It is. Those weed snorters are going to do this, and it's going to help the car. I mean, they throw the most outlandish. You're going to have veterans high on the job market. I'm like, dude, veterans want to use this because they can't sleep.
Right.
Of all the veterans that I know that use cannabis or that use CBD, THC, go down the list of CBN, TBD, all that stuff, or psychedelics. They sleep. I mean, some of them say I've had the best night of sleep I've ever had once.
And that's not 20 minutes in a recliner.
Right.
It's actual.
It's actually
REM sleep.
It's actually me. Yeah. I take my gummies before I go to bed.
Yeah.
I take all my other meds, and I don't take my pain pills, but I take my CBD, or I take my my gummies, and then I go to bed, and I'm out. And I'm just blown away, because in the special operations community, it's been a long time, so I can say this. I'm trying to do my math of what I can say or cannot say of years of service and how long I've been out since I retired. So, We've issued special operations soldiers Marinol for traumatic brain injuries, like guys that are breachers, the guys that are that are always hitting flashbangs, and they have constant migraines. And now, granted, they get medically retired, but I get migraines too. And I have friends that get migraines so bad they want to pull the base of their skull out. They want to.
Right.
That's how bad it is. And as soon as they take those holistic remedies, no issues. Like I said, they're like, I haven't had a headache in a long time, as long as I exercise and I watch my diet, blah blah blah. No issues.
Well, and we got to get out of the habit as lawmakers and people who are controlling this stuff to go, oh, there's a treatment, there's a regimen that people feel better. Mm-hmm. But they jump straight to Cheech and Chong, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, okay, well, I mean, the same thing is like, oh, here's one Percocet, and they're like, oh, but why don't they jump to them taking 5 at a time?
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same ridiculous argument.
Yeah, and they tell you, oh, you shouldn't. I mean, I get, because I recently had surgery, and the VA in there, because I have other ailments and I had other surgeries involved, they didn't want to make sure that I was okay, so they gave me 3 bottles of 3 different freaking painkillers, and I'm like, hey man, could you get me some gummies? it was like we can't talk about that because blah, blah. Like, was okay, I got to find somebody to give me some gummies. But I was like, dude, I'm not taking it. I'm not
sure.
And the only time I ever took, I even finished half a bottle of one of the painkillers was because it was pain. I mean, I had a hernia that they pretty much freaking it was a bad hernia, bilateral hernia, and guts hanging out and everything type of thing. Jeez. And and of course, I had previous surgery, so they wanted to fix some of this, fix some of that. And so, like, literally, my guts all stretched out and everything, like I freaking had a cesarean section. And I never had one, but I just, from what I've seen, it's like, and it was just, I was just boggled at the mind. It just boggles the mind that I had 3 different bottles of 3 different types of painkillers. And I only took, like I said, one of the painkillers, I only had like not even half the bottle. Yeah. Only because I had, really bad, ab pain. And it was just, I just couldn't believe that's what they're like. All right, see you later. Have fun. And this is what you're going to get. And call us if you're okay. And don't take this without that. Make sure you eat.
Yeah. I mean, the things that they prescribe you, especially when you get into opioids, they're not shying away from opioids.
Nope.
You take one or two of those pills too many, combined with all the other stuff, heart rate drops, everything else drops. And, that's significantly more. It would be hard to smoke yourself to death or to gummy yourself to death.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about THC versus CBD, right?
As a matter of fact, I never heard of anybody ODing on weed.
Right.
I heard a lot of people fucking doing some crazy shit when they're drunk, but I never heard, anybody getting in a fist fight or something like that under weed.
Well, and I'm sure it's a safe bet to say that there is a large portion of vets who are being serviced by the VA who have found their own cure this way.
Yeah.
And maybe this is an attempt to go, okay, I know you're doing this, but let's do it in a smart way. Let's do it with maybe lower doses, maybe, something a little bit more regulated that's really going to get you what you need.
Yeah.
Rather than going down to the head shop and just like, hey.
Well, not to mention that, and I'll be honest with you, they don't make weed like they used to, like when I was a kid, when I was a teenager.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
They have some power. They have some, I'll say it. When I retired, here you go. You want to break the seal. There's 3 things you want to do. You always want to do. Get stupid, get loud, be an asshole on social media. Get thrown in jail and smoke a joint or get high or whatever, or partake in those types of stuff.
Right.
It didn't take much. And I'm like, what? I mean, but pain was gone.
Yeah.
And actually it was weird because I'm out, so I don't have to worry about a clearance or something like that, unless somebody's gonna be like, "I saw you in a podcast that you said you partook in marijuana." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I'm out, retired."
It's experimental.
It's experimental. Yeah, it was experimental. But I could feel my where I was hurting. I could feel a tingle. It was really weird feeling because I never.
No kidding.
It felt weird. It felt like, I don't want to say there's some sort of I don't want to get into the ivermectin thing where I could feel the fibers reconnecting. It was just one of those things where I just felt I could feel the spots where I was injured.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't know if it was my body trying to heal it. I'm not trying to get into some sort of, some sweat hut freaking vision. But I'm just saying it was, I was like, wow. And I'm like, when I was a teenager and I experimented with weed, when I was, when I was younger, it didn't taste like that. Maybe it was, I smoked it wrong, or maybe I did something wrong where, I don't know. Maybe I didn't take it right, but
all we had to worry about was too much stems.
Yeah, stems and seeds, right? Hey, what is this? What is this shit? I thought this was supposed to be weed, and then instead I'm smoking some thistles. What the hell is this? But again, now I take a 5 milligram gummy, and I am.
That's awesome. Yeah,
that settles me for like 2.5 to almost 3 days. And
to those who don't have that option, like you said, they'll drink, they'll do some other just to get away from the pain.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So why not try it?
Right.
It says there's also a second amendment included in the House-approved VA spending bill that supports VA planning for psychedelic assisted therapy as a future treatment option for veterans.
Yep.
So for them to even consider this is pretty monumental,
Well, I would, again, like you were saying, the reefer madness stuff, and they think everyone's going to be Cheech and Chong. Of the individuals that I know that use, and they're way more pain than me, that use, cannabinoid products and psychedelics, you would never have thought that they would even use it. Like you would never. You even see some of them like I was a naysayer. I didn't believe in doing this. I had some moralistic implications in my mind that made me feel like I was, a stoner if I did it. And then now they swear by it. They
especially when you get into the whole microdosing therapy.
Yeah,
and all
exactly.
That other stuff,
exactly.
It's not like they're licking a stamp and they're like, "Oh, I feel great.
I feel great. I'm gonna go run in traffic." No, that's and that's what these lawmakers think. They don't think that we're gonna all get to sit around with a bag, and then munching on cookies and freaking smoking bowls.
They're playing to the stereotypes of the voters. I get it.
Yes,
but this is a big step. I just want to, and it's still got to be passed by the Senate. They're supposed to be meeting this week, I think. So.
Correct. It was supposed to be, just this week, and then it's supposed to be. I think it was they wanted to get it in before October. I think
because the fiscal year starts on the 1st, right?
So they're trying to. Hey, I would advocate that big time. If you know any VA medical,
I think that's great.
Like that.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Now, if they could just get the freaking veterans call crisis line squared away, then that's another issue. Oh my God, dude.
I remember. Well, I haven't called the crisis line. I'm not making fun of it, but if it's like any other government-sponsored recorded line, to get to where you want to go, might make you want to do some self-harm in the first place.
I think Jesus, just Christ, just give me. I'd rather be And I mean, I don't like joking about it because people are gonna be like, getting this podcast going, oh my God, they were talking about making fun of it. They were But the thing is that the veterans call crisis line should be and I'm not trying to say us versus them, should be the veterans crisis line. It should not be
the
civilian. It should not. I don't want to say again. I don't want to throw some sort of classism here, but it should be for veterans. It should be this is what I had going on with me, and that way the backlog of it can.
So it should be a small relatively small population.
Correct.
Then just like anybody.
Right. Yeah. Veteran. And the services, and this is just me. If I was king for a day, I would create a joint one for all the services.
That's not bad. Yeah.
So have a joint task force where it's counselors, where it's everybody else that can work for active duty, and it doesn't matter what service because it's joint. To really figure out to get to the bottom of what some soldier issues are, or sailors issue is, or a Marines issue. But the veteran crisis line. Funny you mentioned that, is I'm looking at having some individuals from that group come on and talk. They're not going to be. They're going to be anonymous because all the drama that's happening.
Somebody might see that. And,
see that like, oh, you're trying to use that to exploit veterans. No, we're trying to tell you this is what happens when you have.
It's a service.
It's a service that's pretty much getting overwhelmed. I'll say it. They're being overwhelmed.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully. That would be a fantastic conversation to hear some of the inner workings of that.
Oh yeah,
what the challenges are and all that other stuff.
The two individuals that will be coming on, that will be we're gonna go from start to finish on how is it supposed to work? What's it supposed to look like behind the scenes? Who does the phone call go to? How many phone calls have you had to screen? How many non-veteran crisis that you've had to handle to get to the veteran? And that's what I think is the issue.
What's holding you back? What's the what's the prevention? Is it scheduling? Do you need more people? Is it, what that would be fascinating.
And some of it is every bureaucracy has a bureaucracy to a bureaucracy. So everybody thinks that they need to have so many supervisors and so many people to be on a staff that actually is the doers, the people doing the nug work,
Right.
Or in the Army terms for exercises, the pucksters and the people who are actually talking to the, to the clients. I consider them clients. And like you said,
is that a CPX term? Is that an old CPX term? The
pucksters? Pucksters, where you play in the simulation game and you have to put your injects in, and
pucksters and knob dickers, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, there was, it's specifically depending on where you're at. If you were at Leavenworth or you were in Germany, if you were at JRTC or pucksters is the older CGSC, BCTP type stuff, and so being on staff a lot as a PSYOP guy, those terms are, hey PSYOP, I need your injects. Like, bad guy throws leaflets. There you go.
Nice. Bad guy throws leaflets.
we gotta seize this radio station. Blah 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 blah. That there you go. There's your inject.
Nice.
And then you had So that was just the staff.
That was good. I'm glad we did that story.
Yeah.
I'm going to save the gambling addiction for us later because we're already at, an hour and a half or whatever.
Yeah.
Hour and 20. So let's get to our day in U.S. military history. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a good one. I'm glad I stumbled across it because one of the things that living here in Colorado, I'm not very good at is getting Colorado's history. Right?
Which you don't realize that there's a lot of almost legendary Alamo-like things that happen in Colorado. And you're like, what? I didn't know about this. didn't know that it was part of Buffalo Bill's freaking Wild West
Right.
show. I didn't know that,
But everybody tags and you're like, oh, Colorado, that's Sand Creek. And you're like, true. You're right.
Yeah.
There's Sand Creek Massacre was here in Colorado.
Yeah.
And that has a little bit of play into this day in history. So the Battle of Summit Springs, I thought it was up in Summit County, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. The date is July 11th, 1869, the Battle of Summit Springs, Colorado. Go look it up. It's a long thing. It's between the Cheyenne and the settlers.
Mm-hmm.
But the little summary is the Battle of Summit Springs was the last major battle between the U.S. Army and Cheyenne warriors in the territory of Colorado. The defeat of Chief Tall Bull and the Cheyenne Dog Soldiers on July 11th, 1869, ended 5 years of nearly continuous clashes between indigenous nations and the U.S. military in Colorado and marked the end of armed indigenous resistance on the Colorado Plains. With the Plains conquered, the formation of towns such as Greeley soon followed. Over time, the battle became an iconic event characterizing the Great Plains Indian Wars, with a reenactment of the battle serving as the climax to Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. So Summit Springs is roughly where modern-day Sterling is.
Okay.
So go look it up. It's a good, long history. And it's brief. It's really interesting how they go into the Treaty of Laramie, how the Indians had their land, their reservations, but then we discovered gold in Colorado.
Yeah.
So the rush came and started taking their lands away.
Yeah. And what trips me out about that whole 5 years, it's like, that's almost like Afghanistan type of levels.
Yeah.
5 years, global war of indigenous peoples, I guess you would call it. I guess, I don't know. But just think about it. It's like it went back. I'm curious to know why they called them dog soldiers, though. Why were they?
There's a whole extensive thing on that of why, because these guys kind of split off from the tribe. They're almost like special forces of the tribe, led by Chief Tall Bull.
Okay.
Or it was just the cavalry gave them that name, which is a pretty fearsome name.
Yeah. I was about to say that. It's like how we would say buffalo soldiers, or how we say devil dogs. You know what I mean? Or
Cheyenne dog soldiers.
Yeah, Cheyenne. That's like a fucking battle cry type of thing. That's like, shit.
Cheyenne.
I would be like, what, the fucking Cheyenne war. What was that? Get the battle of dog soldiers. What
soldiers?
Dog soldiers. It's like, yeah. No, I could just imagine, like I said, I mean, because Colorado has high plains, they have the front range and all that, where it dips down into Colorado Springs and it dips down up into.
Right.
I could just imagine fighting in those environments openly like that. I mean, we as soldiers, some desert here, some fighting.
Your hills are your land feature. Just rolling hills.
Exactly. You don't know what's going to be over at the next hill. Especially in the high plains area, you don't know what's going to be on the other edges. Shit, you just drive around there and you're driving like, oh shit,
right?
There's freaking windmills everywhere,
sneaking up on you.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready to move, cavalry was king. The horses were king. I mean, look at what they could do off the horses.
Yeah.
So
it was crazy.
So essentially, settlers were there. Settlers found gold, shrunk the Indian lands. They got mad about it. Then Sand Creek happened, which really inflamed a lot of the attacks by Chief Tall Bull and then his dog soldiers. So they attacked settlements. Finally, they said, hey, we got to go get rid of this guy once and for all. Brevet Major General Eugene Carr's 5th U.S. Cavalry.
Brevet. Wow.
Brevet Major General.
I heard that term.
We did that.
Brevet Major General.
So he took a force out, and he had 50 Pawnee scouts. That's also fascinating. How many the Indians still fought each other, whether they were fighting for us against them or whatever.
Let's talk about Afghanistan. Let's talk about Iraq, Shia, Sunni, different factions of the Taliban, and all the tribal stuff going on.
My brother told me a story. You've probably heard the same story, that when they were over there and they would have their Afghani advisor and he would point and go, that group over there, that's Taliban. So they would do an airstrike or they would take them out. Little did they know later that they're like, oh no, that's the other warlords guys. They're busy taking each other out.
Yeah, exactly. And using
the U.S.
Yeah, using the U.S. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the Pawnee, you can imagine the Pawnee saying the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
There's like, those motherfuckers right there. Those guys right there. Yeah. Well, those the bad guys? Yeah, they're all fucking bad guys. Okay, cool. And then you go out there and
they're all Sioux.
Yeah, exactly.
Sioux, right?
I thought they were, wait a minute. Yeah, that whole dynamic with the tribes being involved in scouts, that had to have been. I mean, could you imagine the course of action analysis and inviting an Indian scout to do this and bringing the Indian scout to come in, and how did they filter OPSEC?
That's so good, Ice. That is so good. Whether you meant to make that parallel or not, and you go to the Afghan interpreter or the Indian scout.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You want to trust them? Yeah. I gotta trust them.
I want
to trust them.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's good.
And then you find out what happens if the Pawnee was incorrect and was, like you said, was probably another faction of within their own tribe.
Yeah. They said a lot of that battle was the Pawnee scouts fighting the Cheyenne. A lot of it was.
Yeah. So. That's I could just imagine. And also imagine being mounted on horseback and then watching the Pawnee and the Cheyenne going back and forth.
Yeah.
And you're probably going, what the hell? We're supposed to be fighting them. What are these guys doing? And then somebody fucking let them fight.
Baby.
Yeah, let them go. Let them fight. Yeah. I mean, that the whole, now look, and of course the controversy of what we did to the indigenous people or how we conducted ourselves to, hey, look, man, that's a period of our history. That's a period of our history. And those tactics, specifically with the 5th U.S. Cavalry, dude, this dude went freaking, he only traveled for like 2 days. I think one of the things is like a month. Rare. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was about a month.
Yeah, a month
where he, but then did the operation in like 2 days. And I'm thinking, bro, imagine movement to contact for almost 28 days.
Yeah, right.
And the 29th and the 30th day, you're engaging the
they got him backed up against the river, surprised them, and basically took him out. So
that's that's the stuff that I wish Hollywood would depict, like
instead of good guy or cowboys and Indians.
Yeah.
Do something because there's so much nuance there.
Yeah,
there's so
exactly.
much negotiating and why did this happen? You got the big tragedies on both sides, of course.
Yes,
but there was so much and it went on for 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
The Native Americans and the colonizers fought.
Yeah. Well, just think about it. That was a 5-year campaign, but I'm talking about that specific battle, only moving to contact to do that.
Sure.
And you're like,
You're
like, dude, what the hell? Right. And then a 5-year campaign on top of the other campaigns that you had
there and
on the Western expansion.
Who was the famous guy who was part of that force? Was it Buffalo Bill? It says it in the article. I can't remember when he left out.
Oh yeah, Buffalo Bill. Yeah, Buffalo Bill's wild. Yeah,
Bill Cody.
Bill Cody incorporated in his show the battle and the engagements. And I'm like, dude, could you imagine? It's like you being in Iraq or Afghanistan and then putting in your reenactment whatever happened in Iraq, Afghanistan, and then who you can. All these Taliban guys are like, I told I was there. I told him it was, and then they're like behind the scenes, well, really it was just a guy that I didn't like. You're like, wait a minute, what did you just say? No, I'm just done. I'm just joking, So,
well, that was July 11th, 1869.
Yeah,
so there's your day in military history.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I wish they would explore more of that stuff because that would be, especially for military enthusiasts, it would be interesting to see. In fact, one book I wish they would make into a movie. I was talking about it with Jake because he read Jeff Shara's The Frozen Hours about the Korean War, right?
Oh, wow.
But I remember Jeff Shara, who also wrote Killer Angels. That's who that author is.
Yep.
He also wrote Gone for Soldiers. And if you ever heard that, that's the Mexican-American War. And it's fascinating because the way he tells it, Lee was a captain. I think, and they made Lee like an aide because he could draw. So he could draw great maps. So all of a sudden he's this guy to the general, the commanding general, going down there. But they talk about how they're going, and they run across this artillery section led by Captain Stonewall Jackson, and Grant is there, and all these Civil War characters are lieutenants and captains. They're CGOs, at that time.
Yeah.
Make that movie. That would be an awesome prequel.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so much of it. Again, the Western inspection has a ton of stories that I don't understand. How come people just don't want to?
Yeah, I agree.
5th U.S. Cavalry. Or why do we carry sabers, or why do we have at least a piece of military history that you can go, well, because of this, and all of a sudden it fades into a memory, and then it talks about the Buffalo Bill show. Oh, break down Buffalo Bill show.
Sure.
Piece by piece. What happened with this? What happened? I was just like, dude, man.
It's fascinating.
It is.
So we try to bring 5 minutes of it to let you know.
There we go.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Ice on that note. You got any closing pitch?
No. Thank you for inviting me on this Guardian platform.
That was a blast. Thank you. I've got to cut it off because we could go longer.
Yeah, hell yeah. No, I appreciate
we both got editing to do, I'm sure.
Exactly. No, I appreciate you bringing me on. And again, U.S. Army WTF moments, U.S. Space Force WTF moments, and late for changeover. We're a big happy family, and I'm always happy to come on and shoot the breeze with you guys.
And wait for the team up. It's coming.
Yes.
Get everybody out there.
Yeah,
100 people on this.
Shh, not supposed to be. Yeah, don't tell nobody yet. That's supposed to be classified.
Well, on that note, let's call it end up, Ice. On behalf of Sergeant Adrian Ramos, I'd like to thank you for listening today. Please like, share, subscribe, and let us know how we did in the comments. And make sure that next week you are not
late for changeover.
Ken, thanks for coming on. That was a blast. We've got to do this more often.
Yeah, for sure, Marty. Thanks again, man.
And all those listening and watching, thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you next week.